Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze of the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we're going to talk about some updates on vaccination news. You know, it's been everywhere in the media as we continue to try to get some kind of common ground, I don't know, some sort of basic common sense in the conversation regarding health, regarding liberty, regarding vaccinations, and government mandates. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com where you can get all of our latest content. Sign up to follow us on minds.com as part of our join the divest from Facebook campaign. Yes, I am encouraging people to divest from Facebook. I want you to do the same, even if it's difficult, and at least use some of your time on Minds and check out what we're doing over there if you're not going to leave Facebook. All right, well, let's get into it. So this came out last night. I noticed this like at midnight last night, right before I went to bed, which is pretty interesting. Just came out like real late last night, May 17th, from the New Scientist magazine. And the New Scientist, for those who don't know about New Scientist, it's not a new magazine. It's been around since the 1950s, 1956 specifically, a weekly English language magazine that covers all aspects of science and technology, based in London, publishes in the UK, United States, and Australia. And it's been online since 1996. So it's kind of like Scientific American. It's, you know, one of these respected scientific magazines that's out there. And, you know, when they say something, people listen. So, you know, I will say I think that it could be, may and probably could and has been used to push certain forms of propaganda in the past. And I think that might be what is taking place now. At the least, this is pushing the opinions of the New Scientist Staff and Press Association, and it says compulsory vaccines are needed to keep measles under control in the UK. And remember, they publish in England, so that's where they are speaking about. But they do talk about the United States. So let's just go through this. The UK should consider introducing compulsory measles vaccinations before children start school, according to a team of researchers in Italy. Their analysis of international measles data suggests that current vaccination policies are not enough to keep the virus under control. All right. The team looked at vaccination trends in multiple countries, including the UK, US, Australia, and Ireland, so Western nations. And they concluded that in order to keep the percentage of the population susceptible to catching measles under 7.5% by 2050, so look, they're setting a date, a goal that's 30 years away, more than 30 years away, but it's kind of giving them a target when I guess by that point, at some point in the future, they're going to want to have compulsory vaccinations, if not sooner. It says at 7.5%, that's the level at which measles is regarded as eliminated. And in order to do that, further action is needed. And what is that action? Either far more people need to be vaccinated or a school's policy should be brought in, says the team. In their analysis, they found that an estimated 3.7% of the UK population across all ages was susceptible to measles in 2018. Without any change to vaccination policies, this is expected to increase to more than 5.5% by 2050. But compulsory vaccination at school entry, in addition to current routine immunization programs, would enable the UK, Ireland, and US to reach stable herd immunity levels in the coming decades. And let's see where it says, there is doubt over whether compulsory vaccinations would work. Only about 1 to 2% of UK parents refuse all immunizations. But before we even consider going down that road, we should ensure that we have efficient appointment systems and reminders and adequate numbers of well-trained staff to talk to parents. So they want trained staff and lots of numbers and systems and reminders set up to pressure parents into doing this whether they want to or not. Sonia Saxena of Imperial College London says making vaccination mandatory might have unintended consequences. It risks disenfranchising parents and carers as well as risking a rise in unvaccinated children being excluded from school, which could carry stigma for those parents who choose not to comply. So at least they're considering some of the, I guess, unintended consequences. As I said, you look into the New Scientist, they've been around since the 1950s. Their respective magazine, they publish something like this, a call for compulsory vaccines. People are going to listen, and you can, I'm sure, already see it in the press. This is what happened. Say the New York Times or the New Scientist or someone publishes something, and in all the other media that is friends and buddies with them, they republish it, they aggregate it, they write stories about those stories. Just like we saw last week with the New York Times saying that if you question 5G, you might be a Russian bot. All the other media picked up on that, and they made the titles even worse and more derogatory as time went on. So what other things are taking place in vaccination news? They want me to disable my ad blocker. That sucks. All right, let's do that real quick. All right. Oregon Governor nixes vaccine bill as U.S. measles count soars. Critics blasted a decision by Oregon Democrats that killed a bill aimed at getting more children vaccinated for measles and other preventable diseases in order to pass a tax on large businesses, saying it jeopardized public health. So the governor basically vetoed a bill that had passed the House and had necessary votes in the Senate. The measure to make it harder for families to opt out of required vaccinations was nixed as part of a deal announced Monday to end a week-long Senate Republican walkout. So the governor came through and killed a bill that was supposed to get more kids vaccinated and basically make it harder for families. I think it was getting rid of the philosophical and religious exemption, which I told you guys last week, I believe. Um, basically was it had already happened in Washington state. So it says under the vaccination measure, children would only have been able to forego vaccine requirements if a doctor or other medical provider concluded the shots would prove a health risk. Otherwise, they'd be unable to attend school or private school, even private school. Isn't that crazy? The state's trying to say you can't even take your kid to private school. Otherwise, they'd be unable to attend public or private school, Head Start, and before and after school programs. So you can't even go to after school programs or before school programs. Senator Elizabeth Steiner Hayward, a Democrat from Beaverton, Oregon, and the bill's sponsor, said the move prevents the state from protecting its citizens. This isn't how I want our state to be known. This is a major public health issue, and it's critical we address it. Steiner Hayward said Governor Kate Brown negotiated the deal with Senate Republican leaders. A spokesman for the governor did not respond to requests. So they're trying in all these different places. No matter what you look at it, guys, the side I come down on to those who might have not have heard me talk about this. Yes, I believe in science. I support science. I also know that there is a lot of pressure on parents to, not even to question vaccines. I've talked to plenty of parents, family members, other friends who said that if they just ask a question, even in the office, the doctor's office, they're made to feel stupid or like they don't know what's going on, or they'll ask them over and over and over and just try to put pressure on them. And this is just another way they're trying to get the state to get in between you as a parent and your children and make that choice for you. Now we have this. Anti-vaccination rallies are drawing crowds even during the measles epidemic. This is coming from Vox. Hundreds of people attended an anti-vaccination event in New York where the outbreak has hit hardest. So you guys know that there's been, of course, we talked about how there was the mandatory vaccination order in parts of Brooklyn. And some of these communities are these really ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities that just for one reason or another, they don't want to be vaccinated. And now they're having rallies in Rockland County, New York, where Andrew Wakefield, who is, of course, the scientist, the researcher who is involved in the study that in the 1996 that claimed a connection to autism, which, according to the mainstream, has been debunked long ago. And I actually did interview Andrew Wakefield. For those who want to do a search on YouTube, just search my name and Andrew Wakefield. You'll see that interview from a couple years back during the Vaxxed movie tour when I gave him a chance to speak for himself. Imagine that. So he spoke at a vaccine symposium along with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he's been getting lots of attention. Apparently, though, some of Robert Kennedy Jr.'s family members and nieces put out a letter saying that he's spreading dangerous misinformation and that he should stop. So Vox is basically trying to make you guys understand that this quote vaccine symposium was sponsored by a Jewish group in Monsey, New York. Attendees referenced religious beliefs and pseudoscience that they claimed disproved the effectiveness of vaccines. So they don't even tell you what they said. They just tell you, don't worry about it. It was pseudoscience. We got it covered. We know exactly what the deal was. And yeah, so I just think that's important to note. And they mentioned that, where is it at? Okay, the measles epidemic in New York, which is the worst in the country, started in ultra-Orthodox communities in October after some unvaccinated children got sick with measles during a trip to Israel. Now, here's the key point. The majority of cases in the city have been among ultra-Orthodox Jews, even though many do vaccinate their children. So the majority of the cases, they're saying, are in a community that does vaccinate their kids. So is the vaccines not working, or I don't know, I'm just trying to get you guys to understand like what exactly is going on here. Now, so that's Vox Media saying it's just pseudoscience and anti-vaccination crowds. And then let's hop over here to The Verge. Twitter fights vaccine misinformation with a new search tool. This is just a couple days old. If you search for tweets related to vaccines as of Friday, the first thing you see on Twitter is a post from the United States Department of Health and Human Services pointing you to reliable information instead of anti-vax information. So these companies are literally just partnering with the state now. You know, you guys have noticed if you're on YouTube and you search, if I do a video on 9/11 vaccines, um, a range of different topics, they're going to pop up with this little Wikipedia page that actually says, you know, this is the truth about 9/11, or this is the truth about this topic. So now Twitter's doing the same thing. If you search for vaccines, the first thing that pops up, it says, know the facts. To make sure you get the best information on vaccines, resources are available from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Last week, Twitter announced that it'll be launching this new tool in search that would prompt users to head to vaccines.org. Over the past few months, social media companies like Twitter and Facebook have faced intense pressure from lawmakers. And we already talked about how Instagram has said they're going to hide vaccine-related search hashtags. So they're doing what they can to keep people from finding alternative information and to think for themselves, I guess, huh? I want to point out to you though, look, The Verge is an American technology news and media network operated by Vox Media. So The Verge, these two publications, and I know there's others, they try to make themselves seem like independent, kind of new media. They're marketed towards millennials, but they're owned by the same people and they're pushing the same message. And so The Verge is owned by Vox Media. Vox is owned by Vox Media. And it was founded by Ezra Klein, who you guys may know. This guy's like a left-wing progressive. There's definitely some reasons to be skeptical of him. And then you just dig further into Vox Media, owned formerly sports blogs, headquartered in DC. You could do your own research, but they own The Verge, Vox, SB Nation, Eater, Polygon, Curb. So a variety of different, again, younger, new-looking media that are aimed at millennials, but ultimately they're pushing much of the same propaganda from the mainstream. They're just, you know, anti-conspiracy, quote-unquote conspiracy, and pro-government science all the way. Don't think for yourself, that sort of thing. But there you have it. That's just a roundup of the latest vaccine news. Twitter working to block vaccination information, anti-vaccination, you know, vaccine concerned parents gathering in New York to fight against the mandatory vaccination orders, and the New Scientist promoting compulsory vaccines, and not just in the UK. They say in the UK, but they basically say that in order for this to help the US and Australia and these other countries, that these policies should be enacted as well. And also, of course, Oregon thankfully was able to stop this measure that would remove the exemption for some parents. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for today. I just want to remind you guys that, you know, this is going on in the world. This is one of the reasons why I'm considering leaving I'm not considering, I'm pretty positive I'm going to be leaving the United States in 2020. I don't want to be here when the election rolls around. I think there's a false civil war brewing. I think there's chances that you might be forced vaccinated, whether you like it or not. I think there's a pretty good chance that, you know, 5G is coming whether you like it or not, and everybody who's against these agendas will eventually be downgraded via the social credit score system. So my thoughts are, why not go somewhere else where we can start building and building, not only for the future and you know, as a way to abandon the United States or anything like that, but as a way to build an alternative living space that maybe when the shit hits the fan, you can help get other free-minded people out who didn't think to get out. So that's just where my head's at. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please do subscribe, follow, link this to your friends, share it with your friends. The shares do help. Seriously, I'm not on all those social media platforms. So if you're on Twitter, if you're on whatever platform, share it out wherever you listen, wherever you watch. I appreciate that. And if you want to support us on patreon.com/Derrick Broze, that helps out a good amount too. And that's it for now, guys. Enjoy your day. I might be doing the live show tonight, Friday evening. If not, it'll be tomorrow, Saturday morning. But stay tuned. Till next time, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.